Shalom everyone, and today we're studying Parashat Tazria-Metsora. It's two parashot connected together, usually being read together. And the topic is really similar. Let me explain the topic and then we'll see the connection to the time of the year that we are at. So Parashat Tazria is starting with the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 12, verse 1. And it covers few aspects. The name Tazria is, you read it in verse 2, Daber bnei Israel lemor isha ki tazria. And there's a big debate about the meaning of the word Tazria. I don't want to go into it. I discussed it a lot in previous years. There are a lot of things about it. But just to remember that the main thing in the word Tazria is the letter Zayin Reish Ayin, Zera, the seed. So, when a woman gives the seed and she gave birth to a male, and so on and so forth, and then verse 3, Uvayom Hashmini Imol Besar Olato. On the 8th day, that's a time to circumcise his foreskin. Now you remember, last parasha starts by Yom HaShmini, the 8th day. Here again, on verse 3, the 8th day is mentioned again, and that's not by coincidence. So here, that issue about the birth of a child, that is chapter 12, that covers 8 verses only, and on chapter 13, verse 1, we're starting with the main topic of the parasha. And we will see the connection between the two. And it says over there about basically, that's verse 2, Vaya bo besaro lenegat Sarat. When you have any kind of a blemish on a person's skin, and that becomes the blemish of Sarat, wrongly translated into leprosy. Okay, what is called Sarat in the biblical sense have no, it's not a pathological disease described in the books of modern medicine. Okay, people say leprosy. Well, leprosy is a skin disease. Okay, but that's according to the descriptions in the Torah that are very, very colorful and precise. That's not Sarat. Okay, so we will explain what does it mean. So from now on, the rest of Parashat Tazria is about dealing with the leprosy, the treatment of the leprosy, and the healing of the leprosy, the methods, and also it speaks again many times that not every skin disease is leprosy, is Sarat. I'm sorry. Okay, and that goes on for a few more chapters. And as I said, a lot of details. Chapter 13 is much longer than chapter 12. Of course, chapter 12 is only 8 verses. And now, on verse 47 of chapter 13, we're speaking about leprosy of the clothes. Washing the clothes, seeing if it continues to spread. And then it goes on Parashat Metsora, the next parasha. The two are being read together, chapter 14. And that speaks about the healing of the leprosy, or the Sarat, I'm sorry. Leprosy is the wrong word, I said it myself. And a lot of details over here. And in order to really heal the leprosy, the person who has the Sarat, I'm jumping right now to chapter 14, verse 6. He has to take a bird and cedar tree branch and a kind of a worm and hyssop, which we'll see later on. It's a very important thing to understand because that will give us the idea what Sarat really means, and about and washing and that the whole thing, and then that goes on till chapter 14, verse 32. And from verse 33 and on, it is speaking about the Sarat of the houses in the land of Canaan, in the promised land, and how to heal the house. Okay, and then it continues from chapter 15 with all kind of other issues of impurity. So basically, the whole parasha, which is a joint to Parashot Tazria and Metsora, is about purity. The woman who gives birth, she gets impure somehow while she gives birth, and then she needs to purify herself, and that's what it speaks about. Okay, and we have about the Sarat. So now the question is, what's in it for us? And the answer is very simple. We are reading Parashot Tazria-Metsora usually during the time of the counting of the Omer. And we have to understand that counting of the Omer, in Hebrew, Sefirat HaOmer, whoever knows a little bit Kabbalah, Sephira means also emanation. So you can read it as counting, you can read it as emanation. And Omer, that appears in the book of Daniel, that the word Omer in Hebrew is also about a word that describes the whiteness of the godly light. Something that is so white, so pure, so intact, so seed level, because what's the color white? White means all the colors of the rainbow together in a pure harmony. So that's the source, the seed of everything. So when we say Sefirat HaOmer, we say, okay, because Omer in Hebrew, the way it's mentioned in the Torah, means a pile of grains, okay, a sheaf of grains. Now you can read it this way: the counting between Pesach, that's a day of the harvesting of the barley, and Shavuot, 50 days later, that's a harvesting of the wheat. So it's a agricultural holiday, and since the wheat flowers in Israel, blooms around Pesach, and it takes 50 days till you can harvest, and you're very much in a kind of awe as a farmer or as an economy that is based on the wheat harvest. So of course you pray a lot during these 50 days so the whole thing will go smooth, because if you can't have the harvest on Shavuot properly, then the whole nation can starve for the rest of the year. Okay, well, that's the external aspect. However, every tradition in the Torah has an internal aspect, and the Kabbalistic aspect is explaining to us that if we explained Passover, the word Passover, to skip over, to hop, to have a quantum leap, that the Israelite nation in Egypt received a miraculous boost of spiritual energy, so everybody skipped all the way. It's like you're getting, instead of going to grade 1, you finish PhD, and all in one evening. Okay, all in one evening. So that is to show you what does it mean to make all the hardship, the labor, the effort in order to get greatness when you're a little kid. So you have the incentive to say, I'm ready to do the work because I want to receive that kind of greatness that I tasted on the night of Passover. So we were passing over all the gates and reaching the highest gate of purity. That was the night of Passover. Now, for us, we have received that gift on the night of Passover. It was gone like it was gone in Egypt. And now we have, as we said, Sefirat Omer. We are right now illuminating. Illuminating, what does it mean? We, by counting the Omer, saying the words of the counting of the Omer tradition, where right now, Sephirah, we are shining, illuminating, by what? Our mouth. We, by saying the words every night of the counting of the Omer, we are creating those lights, those illuminations that we were given on the night of Pesach. Every night of the Omer, we bring down another light. Now it's not Passover. Now it is in order. By the order they should come in, 49 days, 7 weeks, 7 illuminations, 7 Sefirot, and every week has 7 days, 7 Sefirot. All of them to reach, what do we reach? 7 times 7. Now when we reach the 50th, the Jubilee, the 50th has the same connotation as the 8th. Why? When you pass the 7th gate, the next gate is the 8th one. And if you're counting weeks, that's the day, the 50th day, Shavuot. Shavuot means the 7 weeks. So here we have the journey to achieve the highest level of illumination, purity, these days. So these are the days of the Omer, these are the days that we are really focusing on purifying our own actions, because another word for Sefirot is in Hebrew, Sephirah, counting, is also, there's another word being used, Midot. Midot means measurements, like counting, but Midot means in Hebrew also attributes. Somebody is wise, somebody is full of grace, somebody is full of mercy. All of that is also called midot. So you see how in Hebrew you have the double meaning, so you can play with it. If you want to talk to someone in a world of total materialism, and you know you can't explain spirituality, especially when you live in a society that has total intolerance to anything mystical. And remember, within the last few millennium, we were in a problem that it's called in the Middle East. There's a concept in Arabic called taqiyya. You pretend that you are something, while deep inside you're something else, but you need to present yourself as something else. I'm talking about religiously. So think about it. All the idea of spiritual connections, illuminations, reincarnation was very, very not tolerated by the surrounding culture of most of the Jews, most of Jewish communities in the last 2,000 years. So that was kind of, you needed a double meaning of the words when you explained or when you wrote down about everything. And basically this is inherited. That's part of the territory, because the same thing, every person has in himself this kind of debate. Am I doing tradition, or am I connecting to something out of this world, right? So, if you really want to take any responsibility from yourself, you say, no, that's just tradition. And what does it mean? There's a God. I have no idea what this God is about, but I'm afraid of him. And he said I have to do A, B, C, D. So I do it. Why? So the Zohar says, one, I don't want to have troubles in my life in the aspect of bad business, being poor. So whatever God asks me to do, I'm doing. So, if you ask me, why you do that according to religion? Because, the fear of God made me do this stuff because I know God told me, ordered me to do A, B, and C, and D. I don't want to be punished, therefore I do it. Yeah, you have a very nice explanation that is very religious. It's like that was, by the way, the common language around the world, especially during the what we call the Dark Ages. Religion as the fear of God, fear. Okay, the fear of, and as Zohar says, that's not spiritual. That's a bad fear. Okay, or you're afraid that you go to hell after you die if you don't go by God's instructions. And the third one, you don't want your kids to be sick or to fail. So it's all about you do that in the fear of God. And this is wrong according to the Zohar. The other idea, but that you cannot explain in a world that is so full of, how would I say, when you are being brainwashed or conditioned to act out of fear, this is the language. Okay, so on the outside, you had to pretend that that's what your religion is about. What can I do? My God told me to do that, so I'm doing it. But the real thing is that what you're doing is about connecting, as we spoke about it so many times, to God's network. How do you see God's network? You cannot. Today it's easier to explain. Now everybody is connected to, let's say, to a cellular net, okay, to a provider. Can anybody see the network? No. Still, it's a very crucial issue in your life if your phone is connected to a network or not. Very simple. If you're connected, that your life is much, much more enhanced by the ability to get in touch with customers, with uh, uh, people who sell products. Your life is so much better because you don't have to run like in the old past 20, 30 years ago, that for everything you wanted to do, you had to go to somebody's office and sit over there and fill up forms. And you couldn't run away from that. You couldn't escape that. Now you do everything in your palm. So you understand what does it mean being connected to a network and how terrible is the punishment of somebody who does not want to connect to the network. Then you have to simply go to the office of the electric company and all of that stuff. This is hard. Now, how do you do that? So now when you understand that all what we are learning is about the choice we have to connect to God's network or to the dark net. That's what life is about. And after we understand that this is the idea, and this is where our free will lies, that's a name of the game of every human being, then we can understand Parashat Tazria much better. And how does that start? First of all, as we said, the word Tazria is the shoresh, the source of this word. Every Hebrew word has a shoresh. Most of them is 3 letters only, like XYZ. And that shoresh is giving you the essence of what the word is about. The structure of the word will tell you where does it go. Past, present, future, passive, active. There are 7 different structures. 7. Okay, now, so when we say about that, Isha ki tazria ve'elda zachar, we go to the Zohar verse Asulam, Parashat Tazria, verse 9. And over there it says, Isha ki tazria. Again, giving that a woman that gives seeds. And we know a woman does not give seed. What can we do? It's not. So what the Torah is talking about. Taneinan, we learned already. Isha mazra tchila yoledet zachar. Rabbi Yach amar hataneinan. דקודשה בריחו גזר לה טיפה, היא הוא דחר, היא נקבה. ואת אמרת אישה מזרה תחילה יולדת זכר? אמר רבי יוסי ודאי קודשה בריחו הבחין בין טיפה דדוכרא ובין טיפה דנוקבה. ובגין דבחין לי גזר עלי, היא להווי דחר או נוקבה. Translation. So, Rabbi Yecha says, we learn, let's start before. It says that, and a lot of people, God get it from the simplest aspect. There's a verb over here that doesn't make sense. Why? Tazria means give seed, okay, or semen. We know a woman does not give semen. Okay, what can we do? She doesn't. Now, but it says if she gives the semen, Tazria, okay, then she will give birth to a male boy. So, there's a discussion. Rabbi Yecha says, זה שלמדנו שהקדוש ברוך הוא גוזר על הטיפה. Didn't we learn that God by himself, he decrees on the pregnancy if it's going to be male or female? It's written in many places. And now you're saying, it says, this is a new claim, that what determines if it's a boy or a girl, it's a mother. Okay? So you don't need God's decree. So there's a contradiction. Is what really makes the difference? Is that the woman, the mother, that decides if it's a boy or a girl? You know, for many, many years, if a woman gave birth only to girls, it was always her fault, especially in the Middle East. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yossi, so Rabbi Yossi adds, ודאי שהקדוש ברוך הוא מבחין בין טיפה של זכר ובין טיפה של נקבה. So Rabbi Yossi said, there's no contradiction. God knows when it is a seed of a boy or a seed of a girl, and he agrees upon it. He approves on it. Now that he knows the difference, now he decrees on it. Okay, let's explain what this discussion is about really. Are we talking about what should be done to bring a boy instead of having girls? Or are we talking about something much more deep theologically? Because theologically, in this realm of faith, who makes the decisions? And before we continue with who does it, let's go to verse 14 in the Zohar. Okay. And it says like this in the Zohar, verse 14. תחזה, come and see. בשעתה דברנה שעתה להתקדשה להזדווגה בנוקבי. When a man sanctifies himself and then comes to unite with his wife, בירוקתה קדישה דילי, יתאר עלי ירוחה קדישה. Because it is a holy desire of the couple, they bring in a Holy Spirit to the child that will be born. ומאנה בידי, ורמיז קודשה בריחו לחד שלוחה. And because of that, God is taking an angel, appointing him to take a certain holy soul and bring that soul into that pregnancy. Okay? And it says, the Zohar continues, verse 15, okay? אז יורד כדין רוחה נחתה וחד צולמה עמי. ההוא כדקיים בדיוקני לילה בעוד צולמה יתברי. בת צולמה זיל בהי עלמא. הדר דכתיב. And so, at that moment, when that soul, spirit, whatever, that holy soul is being chosen to come and incarnate into that baby that is going to be born from that pregnancy, a tselem, an image of that person. We're talking about the moment of union between the man and woman, the husband and wife. Okay? If a person will have the ability to see, he will see above the couple an image of a human being. And that is the image of the grown-up when that baby will be born, grow years later, he will look like that image that appears above the couple that just got pregnancy. Just a second. We know that when a couple is uniting together for pregnancy, it takes hours, sometimes up to 3 days, till there's going to be insemination, till there's going to be fertilization. You want to tell me that it's already been determined which soul is going to be in that pregnancy? Is that what you mean? And the answer is yes. So here what the Zohar is saying. The soul is being chosen by the intention, the thought, the hearts and the souls of the couple, the parents. According to, in this case, if both of them were really, really in a place of not focusing on sexual pleasure, but of getting united in order to connect the union of the Creator and the Shekhinah, the heaven and the earth, the Creator and the creation, in that union so they can bring to the world a holy, spiritual, elevated, advanced soul. If this is the case, that soul will be drawn, sent down to the world, and the image of that person when he's born and he's already grown up will appear above the couple. If you understand what a claim is that. So that's what the Zohar is saying. What determines who is going to be born from that story? The thoughts, the intention of the parents, the couple. What if, the Zohar says later on, what if their intention was evil? They were just focusing on their own physical pleasure. So, the soul that will be drawn into that pregnancy, if there's going to be a pregnancy, in both cases, is going to, again, will be according to the level of their thoughts and intentions at that moment. Which means, what happened is that here there is a case of a very intense emotional moment. Okay? A couple getting together. It's a very, very hard moment to elevate and be focused on spiritual connection, spiritual unity, spiritual union between God and the Shekhinah. So, of course, we understand that you can't behave like a beast, eat like a beast, talk like a beast, be busy always with your lowest desires and emotions, and then when a moment comes, you will be in heavenly thoughts. You have to train for years in order to be able, in such an emotional moment, to be in a higher intention, meditation, to be in a meditative state. Okay? But what does that mean? Because those thoughts, those intentions are being they create like a cosmic pulse, that cosmic pulse invites in a soul that fits that pulse, which means sometimes there's a fertile couple, the woman just ovulated, the man is fertile, and there's no pregnancy. How come? And the answer is, according to this, it didn't fit. The pulse that the couple created did not fit any soul that is intending to come to this world. So it's like when two fertile people getting together, married or non-married, we have a little issue. It's like you're playing Russian roulette, because the thoughts you're going to have and the emotions and the feelings, love, passion, compassion, unity, hatred, aggressive, uh, suppression, uh, all of this is going to create a pulse, and that pulse will control your life. Who knows, maybe for the rest of your life. Because the child that will be born is becoming part of your family. And that, you know, that can be for years and years ahead. One moment, one special, small, short time, one moment of thoughts and emotions will be printed, right? Register, and will affect your life for years ahead. That's what we're talking about. Which means, here, both Parashot Tazria-Metsora speak about the power of the mind, and later on, the mouth. When you do something like having sexual relations, when you speak, and by the way, it's the same power, because when we are speaking, we're using the mouth, and the mouth has a very similar power like the sexual organs. We can see the mouth will bring life to this world or death. The mouth, including the emotions, and here's these emotions and their intentions, and here will come a child that will somehow be a significant part of your life for the rest of your life, or it's a word that you said, or words that you did not say, especially the words that you did say, that they will create a reality, and that reality will basically uh, be choosing a direction in your life. So what all the story is about, that during the time of the Omer, the Sefirat Omer, we are working on purifying our intentions behind everything that we do. Because the intentions will come out, manifest as actions, and these actions will develop according to the intention that was behind the seed of the action. And therefore, we go to that amazing, famous expression from the Ethics of the Fathers, Hakol bidei shamayim chutz mirat shamayim. Everything is determined by heavens, except of the awe of heavens. Which means, when I open my mouth to say something, and I realize that I have a responsibility behind those words, and of course, when I realize that by saying something, creating something, building something, could be a house or any action, or just building a sentence that will create something, I need to bring the creator as a partner in that creative action. When I invite the Creator to be a partner in that creation, that could be making a child, making a word, a sentence, a speech. When I invite God in, then that creation will be connected to God's network. And that means there's going to be a flow of spiritual light in what I am doing, which means everything is in the hands of heaven. But my choice is, do I tap into that network, which means the network of God, and by this, things will flow with a spiritual light that I invited into my actions, the result of these actions, years and years ahead. But if I do not choose God to be my partner in this action, and I choose the dark side to be a partner in that action. Why? Because it's about selfishness, it's about egotism, it's about emotions that belong to the dark side. If I partner with the dark side in making a child, saying a word, building a house, making clothes, everything has to be partnered with God. But if I partner and I choose to partner with the dark side, because what drives me at that moment are emotions, attributes that belong to the dark side, whatever I create will belong to the dark side. Now, since I created that pregnancy, since I built that building, since I made this clothes, since I said that sentence with that inclination, with this intention, I created a being that is connected to the dark side. And if I created such an entity, I have the responsibility to cleanse it, because I have responsibility for, and that's, if you read the book of Exodus, Parashat Mishpatim, whatever we create, whatever damage we bring to this world, we have the responsibility to fix that damage. That's our journey in this world. Therefore, the 7 weeks of the counting of the Omer are about very, very special thing. How do we purify our minds so we can purify our words and actions, so what comes out to the world will be much more in tune with God's network, and therefore it will be more productive. It could, whatever we create, the rest of humanity can enjoy of it, from it, celebrate it, get benefit from it. And if I create something of dark nature, I have to take responsibility for this, because I gave birth to it. So here, that's why we start with a woman giving birth, and on the 8th day, it's a circumcision of the baby. Again, why the 8th day? Let's read a little bit more stuff from the Zohar. So the Zohar is teaching us, that's פירוש הסולם, verse 27. וביום השמיני חוזר הרוח והגוף להיראות לפני המלכה, ולהתקשר בה, ובדחר דהיינו בזעיר אנפין בגוף וברוח. Something happens on the 8th day, because when a child is born, it's a baby. It's a material baby. It has, all what a baby needs to exist. Otherwise it won't exist. It has a heart, pumping heart, all of that stuff. However, the spiritual dimension of the baby does not really comes till the 8th day. Therefore, the circumcision, the Brit Milah, will happen only on the 8th day, not a day earlier. It's not the time. There's nothing to celebrate it there, because the 8th day is the day that the baby is supposed to be connected to the soul, to the spiritual dimension, and the circumcision is made in order to connect the baby to what? To the 8th dimension, to God's network. Already then. And also, because the Zohar explains in another place, okay, that's verse 36. And it says, "Umiyom hashmini v'ala yiratzeh." It says also that it's not just about babies. When the time of the temple, you could not bring an offering of any animal before the 8th day. You cannot slaughter a calf before he's 8 days old. Why? Because when any being is here for 8 days, says the Zohar, כי בין 8 ימים מוכרח להיות שבת אחד. When you are here for 8 days, you must experience at least one Shabbat. כיוון שעבר עליו שבת אחד, since one Shabbat passed for that life form, אז ירצה זה לקורבן. That then this one can be accepted for an offering. If that's a beast, that's an animal, okay? Or if it is a baby that should be circumcised, that's also like an offering. Because when Shabbat is there, Shabbat is the moment, the time, in the dimension of time, in our world, that the 8th dimension is joining the physical dimension. So the moment the child or the calf tasted Shabbat, they already tasted that ability to ascend beyond the physical. And that moment, they already established the purpose of life. The purpose of life is not just to multiply, to eat, to breed, all of that stuff. The purpose is godliness in the physicality. And that's the purpose of the whole creation, which means everybody's in it. Everybody. Every creature. Okay? And therefore, only on the 8th day, when you experience Shabbat, in Shabbat you have that connection of heaven and earth together. על כן מקבל ממנו הילד הערה לתיקון ברית קודש שלו. So, if it's a baby, on Shabbat, and on Shabbat in the tradition is that Friday night, before the circumcision, before the Brit, let's say the baby was born Sunday, so the circumcision will be on Sunday. Monday, it will be on Monday. So on the Shabbat, that before the circumcision, there's a special little meal that is called Shalom Zachar, that you make in honor of the baby. Why is that meal being celebrated? That's usually after the Shabbat Friday night meal. And the answer, because on that Shabbat the child is getting a special illumination. So that will give him the power to experience his circumcision properly. Because circumcision, there's a difference between circumcision and Brit Milah. Circumcision, English, means removal of the foreskin. Okay? The doctor can do it. A lot of people say, oh, well, why do I need a mohel? We can do it in the hospital with a doctor that he has a medical training. Okay? A little problem. You ask all of those urologists that do this, that, they do circumcision also. How many times a day do you circumcise? Say, well, maybe 3 times a month. Now the Mohel is doing that few times a day. So he has much more experience. He's like, I heard it from one of the biggest urologists in Israel. He says, when my grandchildren, they need to be circumcised, I invite a mohel, a rabbi that does the Brit Milah, because he has much more experience than I have. I'm a urologist, yet, but how many times I do that? He does few every day for many years. And he usually uses a grandson of Rabbi Ashlag to do it, which is an amazing person. So I don't trust myself to do it as he, because he has much more experience than I have. And also, just cutting the foreskin that's called circumcision. But Brit Milah, the Hebrew word, means the covenant of the word. The covenant. Because we are not removing the foreskin. Yes, that's a physical thing. But I gave the example many times. When you tell somebody, turn on the light, please, he understands that he has to go to the wall and push a piece of plastic, and that will close a circuit, and that will make the electricity flow in the lamp, and that's how the light is being turned on. Okay? So you call it turning the light on and not pushing the piece of plastic on the wall. Same thing in Hebrew. When you don't say circumcision, which means foreskin removal, that's a physical action. But what is the real action? That's pushing the plastic on the wall, but you don't say that. What happens when you remove the foreskin in a proper way? You make a covenant. You instill inside the child. What is a covenant? Covenant, Brit, Kritat Brit, is uniting some sides, two sides at least, together in a deal. What's a deal? That the child comes to this world for, there is a deal. What is the deal? The deal is, I'm not here just to be a physical being. I'm here to connect to the 8th dimension. I'm here to be responsible, to bring godliness into everything I do. And that means whatever I speak, whatever I eat, whatever I build, I must inject godliness, because that is the purpose of the creation. Which means the more I work on the purity of the mind and the heart, and the tuning in of the mind and the heart to the Sephirot, to the illuminations, the result will be that the words that I say will bring to the world movies, scripts of higher value, higher light, higher illumination. This is the story of life. Okay? When I build a house, a business, when I instill the consciousness of godliness and connect the house, like the dedication of the house and the putting of the mezuzah, it's basically to connect the structure that I created. It's not a building anymore. It is a home for God's light to be revealed, because I connected it to God's network. That is what makes our life fulfilled. And that is the time of the year that we are working on the tuning, the fine tuning, the real tuning for the whole year of our thoughts and emotions, because according to the purity of a tune-up for this sequence of 7 weeks, that will be the quality of our life in the coming year. Thank you so much, and good luck for everyone.